You're listening to The Adventuring Party, talking about gaming the Irish way.
Welcome to the party. I'm Owen.
I'm still Savage.
I'm Scarr.
And I'm Dave.
And ho ho ho! It's our much anticipated Secret Santa episode. Now
Yay.
Carried out through the miracle of digital file transfer. Because we are still part of the plague. And as such, we don't get to see each other in person.
It's a shame, but plague is plague. That plague episode we did is getting so much mileage.
It seemed like such a good idea at the time. It is not aged well. What other disasters should we cover, folks? Let us know in the Discord. Oh, right. Sorry, someone said yo ho ho. Is it that time of year again? Mid-June, when all the popular shows record their Christmas episodes. Close.
The hell with that.
Right,
I'll read off a new...
That's throwing shade on us. Yes, but it is the season of gift giving. Partly someone died 2,000 years ago, and that means we all have to be very nice to each other.
Technically, he was born 2,000 years ago, and he wasn't born during Christmas, but let's leave it aside there, Shane.
Technically, it's about the rebirth of the sun god having been eaten by the winter moon or something or other. Let's get on with it. I want to unwrap my horn bow and obsidian arrowheads and go out on winter's mess morning and test them on the local wildlife.
It really is down to who gets the bean in their bowl here and is proclaimed Winter King. Alrighty.
It's the sacrifices that really make the season for me.
So let's go through each person in turn and see what they have gotten, and have their gift giver explain the provenance of their gift.
Through the magic of the random number generator, Shane will choose.
Shit.
Do you want me to roll dice?
Oh, well, there you go. Stick him in a corner. Put him under pressure. It always comes through.
I've got a D12 here. I can roll it.
No, I got just.
Which is great, because this is actually one...
4.
Excellent.
So that is myself. Okay. What have I been given?
What have you been given?
Russell. It appears that
This always makes for great radio. People tearing through sellotape and packing paper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we drop some sound effects in here?
If the editor can find them, sure.
See what we can do. Someone just make crinkle, crunch.
Crunch, crinkle.
All right, what's in the box?
In the box is a copy of the Sentinel Comics role-playing game.
Ooh.
Or, sorry, Sentinel Comics, the role-playing game, because, well, what's the possessive article for? Well, Owen, would you like to explain the provenance of this fine gift?
Absolutely. The Sentinels Comics role-playing game is from the provenance of the beloved superhero cooperative board game Sentinels of the Multiverse, in which you play a hero cooperatively with your friends and take on both a villain and the environment you fight him in. And it was a very popular co-op game, got a lot of mileage over the year, and has got a second edition coming out soon after releasing a collector's case that you could bury a person in. And this is the RPG iteration of it. And shockingly, I'm going to shock you guys here, right? This is not based on 5th Ed D&D. This, in fact, is not based on D20 at all.
Oh.
It's something a little closer to the Cortex system with a lot more bells and whistles. So it is basically you're kind of constructing stuff from your powers and your dice pools and rolling stuff, and it's a lot of fun as a game.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about it. I know the podcast I listen to, System Mastery, is a big fan. They have several actual plays of them running through the character creation process, which just sounds really fun, because there's both, you can just go in and make a character with your points and put this into this into this and get your stat dice that way, or there are several different ways of guiding you through the character creation process as you pick your background and then your secret origin and like what horrible things happen to you, and you can roll randomly or choose, and it's a flexible game in that way. But yes, for people who aren't familiar with Cortex, it's a situation where you have you generally have 2 to 3 dice. A thing, you have your power and your stat and usually some feature of your character. And you roll all 3 and take the middle one, unless you have a power which says you take the higher dice. Or you'll have something where, say, you use the middle dice, but you get a bonus damage equal to the lower dice and stuff like that. So it's got this sort of self-moderating system where, weirdness of dice gets averaged out, but also there's mechanics to use the other dice for special things. So it sort of leverages that in interesting ways. So everything's constrained into a nice Savage Worlds like dice number range, I guess. But there's still play there, and there are interesting dice effects you can use to make your power seem unique.
And the presentation of it's actually designed a lot like kind of to sort of be a mixture of retro and modern comic in its presentation. White backgrounds, but a lot of the box set text examples are done in the format of comic panels. So there's sections where the GM, the character does something, and then in the first panel, and in the subsequent panels, it's the GM discussing with the player how the system works. So the forms like suits the function here. It melds quite nicely about how it's doing, how it kind of goes. Oh, look, this is how it works, and that's to be appreciated.
Yeah, so this is quite the welcome gift. Thank you very much, Owen.
No problem.
Alrighty.
There's next on the battlefield of Christmas.
The best thing about a D4 or D12 is you can actually use it to pick between 4 people, then 3 people, then 2 people without ever changing the dice.
Let's start the base 12 revolution now. We should have been counting at base 12, forever.
There's something to be said for it. You can count large numbers.
Well, I've rolled my primitive electronic D3 and it has come up on Mick, so I believe Mick.
All right.
What gifts have you received?
And you, Warlord, have bestowed on me the gift of slaughter. Slaughter most dark in the medieval battlefield and between the stars. There's two nice chunky gifts in my package. I got Morkborg in English, thankfully. Ooh. Although it would have been hilarious if you bought me the Swedish version. And Mothership, the player survival guide for this. These are these are kind of trendy games, I suppose. Morkborg has won a raft of awards at the Ennies back in 2020. It got Product of the Year, it got Best Layout and Design, which I want to talk about. Got Best Writing, who knows. And Best Game, it got a silver there. But how to describe it? It's been described as a lot of things. It's pitch black apocalyptic fantasy RPG. It's very OSR. To my mind, it is best sort of understood as a set of rules overlaying fantasy RPG death metal album covers. Because the interior of the book is wild, to say the least.
Yeah.
Blasted with neon yellow throughout. And then you've got these sort of, it's a phantasmagoria of odd images, something between collage and outsider art and photorealism. There's weird overlaps. There's 3/4 page spreads. There's 1 3/4 page spreads. There's chopping and changing the direction of type. There's full page splashes. There's so many awesome sort of typographic and design elements here, just in terms of setting the mood, all against this ludicrous blasted yellow that cuts through everything. It's somewhere between supermarket budget packaging and hazard sign, yellow and black, just assaulting you from the page. I'd be interested to see it in print form. It's clearly lovingly put together with print in mind, but I'm very happy to receive this much more accessible sort of PDF version that I can flick through today. Will I play it? No, but I'll probably plunder it for cool ideas. I'm looking at a spread here. It's a double-headed dragon, snake, stag, zombie thing crunch its way through a ruined sort of castle. Yeah, I could see a scenario where that becomes a thing. Why not?
Nick, word of advice: there's quite a good index at the end, and like rules, like summaries of where all the rules are, i.e. in a readable format. Because I actually have the book, quite enjoy it. It's got so many fonts. I've never seen a book put so many fonts into it. But yeah, it's memorable. You know,
they recognize that once you're past the coffee table experience, here's a way to find that stuff when you need it.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't know this until I leafed through the rest of it going, this is going to be an interesting thing to find stuff in, and then, this is actually well laid out at the end. Sweet.
Yeah, you getting the best of both. Speaking of layout, so and the art is genuinely good. It's a mishmash of different approaches, but it stands up quite well and really sells the tone. That moves us on to Mothership, which I'd say Mothership's art is an acquired taste or just plain bad, depending on who you ask. But Mothership, and I was gushing earlier this year on the Discord, join our Discord, about a mega dungeon, I think it is, that they released called Gravity Gradient from in the Mothership line. Because I came across some infographic stuff in it to do with how they laid out the relationship between big and small spaces on this space station. That just blew my mind. It's all in the style of an electrical diagram, but with some clever notation and a good legend, you can very quickly figure out, these small human habitable compartments are sort of beside this massive engineering bay that's open to the vacuum. And Mothership does a lot of that. It's a game about horrible things happening in the most horrible environment, outer space. So it's a sci-fi horror game, I guess you'd call it. It has lots of kind of rogue AIs and biological experiments gone wrong, murderous androids, and other even odder things.
It also has that very entertaining thing I always find where the book is calling itself a survival guide, but the actual point of the RPG is for you to die in a particularly interesting and horrible way.
So you have to survive long enough to die horribly, right?
Yeah, it survived to get to your horrible death, exactly.
And the thing I like most about Mothership is the way it lays out all of its sort of useful, the character sheets and the graphs and the rules and everything else. There's great use of isometric maps to give you a sense of where things are in relation to each other. And just generally there's flow charts and there's sort of sensible ways of organizing all this information. So while the artwork is a bit messy in places, there's a real rigor and structure to how they've built things like the character sheet, which, I mean, even has the rules for character creation embedded in it. So you very quickly, if you are dying in your droves in the lightless vacuum of horror space, you can very quickly get another character up and running as soon as you're done. So yeah, thank you very much, Scarr. Those are two excellent books. I fully intend to gush with. I'll be dragging these out to continue beating the party over the head with the importance of good layout design and workbooks and flow and all the rest in the coming year. Thank you very much.
And Mothership either has, depending on when this drops, still has a Kickstarter running, or its Kickstarter will just have finished up for the big new. Is it a new edition or is it just a?
It is 1.0, I believe. Technically what I've bought Savage is a beta, but it is a very interesting beta, as you said. Yeah, the Mothership has definitely burned up the indie charts.
Early 2021. There's 11 days to go. It'll be done by kind of the 1st of December. That's when they finish up. They're looking
this will be done at this stage.
Yeah,
and probably a massive success.
It'll be a box set they're doing, which often popular with people. Looks like there's lots of pamphlets in it that make up the whole game.
Of course, it might not get delivered to 2023 at the rate the shipping apocalypse is going. But what can you do?
Watch those PDFs, folks. Okay, I'll stop hogging the mic.
No, that's fine. We have to mug for time after all. I think we're at this point established that we're going in reverse order. So, Owen, what has the great gift giver?
Yes, Dave has lavished upon me a trifecta of gifts, each of which I actually quite needed. First is the Savage Worlds Science Fiction Companion, because I actually didn't have the up-to-date version of this. I had one of the older ones, and a friend of mine was looking at running some Savage Worlds Star Wars, and this is one of the bits that I actually need for that.
I actually have this one myself. I think it's like if you're running a sci-fi game in Savage Worlds, it's very handy.
Is this the Adventure Edition, or is it still Explorer Edition?
I was just checking drive-through, and in the comments, they're saying that the newest version, there will be another update to it in 2022, but that's next year. So, so it's the Explorer Edition that this PDF is for. But I have it myself. It's quite good and shouldn't need much converting.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to using that, because it actually is something I need to refer to for some of the other books that have come out. Actually, need the recovery. The second one is the Storm Knight's Guide to Dragon Warriors, which is for Torg Eternity, but it's actually something produced under Torg's Infiniverse line by an independent person. So it's kind of like an official, an official unofficial product.
Okay,
the Dragon Warriors are a really cool. One of my players plays a Dragon Warrior when we run Torg, and I was like, "Oh, that'd be cool for him." And what they are dwarves that wear magic armor, and the magic armor looks like steam-powered battle armor, because it kind of is steam-powered battle armor. So it is powered armor dwarves who have basically this armor looks like a dragon, and basically blast dragon fire at people. So it's really cool.
This has nothing to do with the sort of fantasy Titan thing.
Well, it's Torg, so this one is from the Isle Cosm, so it's from the fantasy world in Torg, but it's the dwarves in question have this magical dragon armor they wear, and it looks like steam powered madness, but it isn't in fact steam powered; it's magical powered. But they look great, and they're one of the kind of cover classes of Torg, because they look great. So they're throwing in a lot of they wear cool armor and have lots of sort of this is basically a book of extra stuff they can take.
Nice. Interesting. So you're saying that this is sort of a new endeavor of Drive Through Rpg, who I believe also run not D&D Beyond, but DM's Guild. And DM's Guild is famous for having its semi-open license for people to print, to make their PDFs for D&D branding, while protecting WotC's ever vital copyright and such. So that you're saying there's sort of a new endeavor by other RPGs to do the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's always been a third-party market for stuff, but this is like kind of evolution from the OGL into actually we've got our own thing. You can use licensed fonts, here's our fonts you can use. Here's our graphic layout stuff you can use. So your product will look very official, and like it's not identical, but it looks pretty damn close. And it's cool to see that people are going, I'm going to produce some content, and hey, you might get a couple of sales and earn yourself some pocket money doing that. If that people enjoy that sort of thing, that's all to the good.
Cool.
So yeah, it's the Infiniverse exchange for Torg, and Ulysses Spiel are putting together a bunch of different ones for their different products. So you can get ones for Aventuria, the Dark Eye, and for I think so. They've got ones for Hexen as well, but Hexen is only in German.
Okay.
German. And last but not least, I have the 3rd edition of Bunnies and Burrows, the venerable 1970 Incredible 1976 RPG of playing intelligent rabbits, which I presume came out of all of the nightmarish playing animal films and books that got put out there.
I mean, it is very clearly riffing on the Watership Down. Did the Watership Down movie where rabbits maul each other to death come out by 1976?
Oh, yeah,
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I believe it was. I would say these are contemporaneous, you know?
Yeah.
The novel was 72. The film was 78. This was actually before the film, after the novel.
Interesting.
I see.
Long enough to get inspired.
Yeah.
Is Watership Down the Dark Souls of children's cartoons?
It's certainly one of them.
It seems to have gone to a bunch of publishers. Fantasy Games Unlimited, Steve Jackson Games, and now they're partnered with Frog God Games.
Wow.
Property too controversial to handle.
It's just always been this really interesting early example of someone taking the RPG genre and just swerving it into a new position, because 1976, I'm pretty sure Tunnels and Trolls was barely out by that point, let alone, Cthulhu or anything. But there's this very interesting early example of, I like this idea of a role-playing game, but I don't want to do anything to do with Dungeons or Dragons or Medieval Knights or whatever TechML is. I'm making my Watership Down fanfiction into a new RPG, and it's just like, it certainly has a lot of infamy for what it does, because it's the legend is still alive.
Now, can I just clarify this? This isn't rabbits running around like rabbit-sized shields and swords.
No. These are rabbits.
Interesting.
There's one character class, the Maverick, who can use human equipment at high level effectively.
Right.
But other than that, you're a rabbit.
I think there's
a
magic
rabbit stuff. There is magic. There's mystics and psychics, it seems. So basically, rabbits can be mystic or psychic, but they can't be. There's no rabbits with swords here.
Lepus occultus.
Like that. This is not as far as Redwall on the kind of simulationist to furry track. This is way closer to simulationist.
Oh yeah, like there's, and it's that particular type of early simulationist where every time you go out to munch on some grass, there's a 3% chance of an eagle just coming out of the sky and dragging one of you away.
Well, that's an attempt to be simulationist when you're living as a rabbit,
Nature is cruel.
Yeah,
what a fascinating idea. Yeah, okay. I'm just we're 10 sessions in here. We've lost so many player characters. The eagles must be stopped.
They've also some random some generations for non-rabbit species character creation. Raccoons are bandits, it appears. And squirrels are grifters.
Of course they are.
Skunks are burglars. Presumably.
Oh my word. Okay, right.
Opossums are shaman. Oh.
Love it. Brilliant.
So
why didn't this get the traction? This should have been the market leader.
We'd be in a very different country, I feel. Twitch RPG streams would be even more disturbing to watch when you have when you basically people pretending to be animals and grooming themselves on camera. Even weirder. Oh man, the skunk has an AoE attack.
Secret Santa episodes used to not be like this.
Yeah, then we started speaking.
There we go.
What's left in the bag?
Dave, I believe you have been gifted. Mick, I believe, would have.
Yeah, Mick has given me quite a bit of stuff. So I'll start going through this list. From Pickpocket Press, 2 items: the Midlands Low Magic Sandbox setting hex map, which is a rather lovingly rendered view of the low fantasy games default setting of the Midlands. It's a sword and sorcery setting, and the art matches. You've got sea serpents and Viking-esque ships in the sea. You can see mountains separating like the few pockets of civilization, and you've got mountain range names like the Spine of Olgoth and the Ironhull Mountains. So yeah, it certainly sets a mood already.
Fun for the whole family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't really heard much of low fantasy gaming, but it does seem to be going in the OSR adjacent space, and
it draws low fantasy gaming draws some ideas from Fifth Ed, but makes things much more interesting. Like magic actually has a risk of causing you problems. Like there's a dangerous magic table, and you can end up rolling on it for fun for all the party. Other things like exploits and whatnot to make combat much more dynamic. But since I didn't get the core book, I'm not going to go into that too much. Also from Pickpocket Press, I have the fantasy drop tables, which are effectively random tables you can just fire a few dice at and start creating some ideas. Like you can roll a d6 for a stall, and this could be a gaming den, this could be a theatre, a market.
So this is the idea of you just take a fistful of dice, roll them in a box, and interpret the results on this table, and that's how you sort of draw out a sort of basic map of a dungeon or a cityscape or something like that.
Yep. No, you've said it pretty well there. It's described as system neutral for whatever fantasy game you like, though I am getting a little bit of a sword and sorcery vibe off it, which makes sense given the writer does low fantasy gaming. But yeah, it could be handy definitely for solo play, like if you need ideas. But quite that random tables are always good to have. Cheers, Mick. Next up is the Exterminator RPG from Cartridge Games. The art and the description are very reminiscent of Terminator, the franchise. You're playing resistance soldiers fighting against, a mechanical menace controlled by a supercomputer dedicated to eradicating the human race. So
that sounds familiar.
It wears it on the sleeve. So that looks like it should be a bit of crack.
So that's just an odd one. It's just like the Terminator franchise has always been stuck between, the part of the fandom that wants to focus on, the post-apocalyptic battle against the machines, desperate struggle while also watching over your soldier for see if your mate is actually a Terminator. And then there's the other part, which is all the time travel shenanigans back in the present day, where you have infinite waves of Terminators being sent back in time by different alternate futures of Skynet to either save or destroy humanity in various different ways. And never the twain seem to meet. It's just like everyone wants to either focus on one or the other.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. This one does seem to focus on the post-apocalyptic stuff, although I am seeing possibility to play in 3 different periods of war with the machines, so maybe there's time travel involved. I'll be looking forward to reading it anyway. Next up, we've got the Terrain Randomizer from Crimson Scholar Press. More delicious random tables. You can split your terrain into zones characterized by a descriptor and optionally an elevation attribute. And the terrain decorator is a method to tie these descriptor zones in with the mechanics of whatever RPG you're playing. And I've become quite a fan of random tables and using those to craft, to create RPG ideas. So yeah, all good. Next up is Fire in the Hole from one Derek Jones. It's a Castles and Crusades adventure, and it involves It involves some odd goings on a wealthy halfling's wine cellar, which is getting remodeled, and the workers don't seem to have done well, and he's offering a reward for a party to wander in and see what happened to the said workers.
So it's very woof-ruppy.
It does have that bit of a vibe to it.
Castle Crusade's one of the older retro clones, I believe.
Yeah, Gary Gygax, of all people, was involved with them in their first few years. Troll-Lord Games.
Yeah, I believe he actually made the only thing close to an original Castle Greyhawk was actually released for Castles and Crusades.
Yep. Castles and Crusades, the system is, the core mechanic is actually pretty straightforward. Character creation is quite fun in that you pick 2 prime attributes, as in attributes your rolls are easier on, and if you're human, you get to pick a third. So you don't get weird abilities like vision or whatever, or magic, whatever. But if you're human, you get a third attribute you're good at. So that's actually kind of it looks like it gives reasons to play humans besides just pouring on wacky abilities. And last but not least, buy this Axe Companion from Lakeside Games, and another more sword and sorcery, because that seems to be a theme with me lately. So this is a supplement for the Buy This Axe I Hack game, which is itself based on the Black Hack. So definitely in the OSR camp. So Buy This Axe, both the core and this companion are heavily based on Robert E. Howard stories, Roy Thomas, Michael Moorcock, Fritz Lieber, that vein of storytelling. And
talking my language, great stuff.
And the companion, the cover art has a lady, covered in armor with a rather large axe, and looking like she is okay with using it, and that is fun, all good.
That's the last Cull the Conqueror story as well. By This Axe I Rule. From Robert Howard.
I actually didn't know that.
At the end, he smashes the tablets of law with his axe, proclaiming, "I am the law. I am king, state, and law, and by this axe I rule." Which is that 72? So that's probably this is those 72. It was published in 67, but was written in the early 30s. So that would have been well before Judge Dredd. So I think Cull is probably the originator of the phrase "I am the law."
Axe-based government did give legislators some problems in later years, but
they tried disagreeing as well, and that didn't go too well for them.
Yeah. But yeah, Nick, thank you for this bounty of material. I will be making use of it.
Can I ask Mick what the buying process was like for this?
Chaotic. Well, after I'd gotten to the 3rd page of the wish list, I was like, okay, I think I see something of a theme here, but I'd better throw in some sci-fi just to be sure.
Fair.
So, your love of randomness and sort of good GM side tools was sort of an influencer as well. I think I threw in one thing that wasn't on the list. Terrain randomizer, maybe.
Okay.
Just to fill out the numbers. It
looks welcome though. I'm liking the description, so appreciate it.
Is this your first Secret Santa with us?
It is.
Good to have you on board. And it's been a hell of a year, and it's great to add some new members to the party. We're coming up to Thanksgiving now, so that's something to be thankful for. And many more episodes to come. So, go on.
I was just saying aye.
Fair enough. Well, that's... I hope, folks, that has wet your whistle for some RPG stocking fillers. We'll all be settling down to peruse ours in the coming dark months before the sun god rises resurgent, having slain the winter dragon. And I don't know, there's something with the gingerbread house, it's unclear.
I thought you said something about a bow.
Oh yeah, well, I don't know what Christmas is like elsewhere, but in Roscommon, Christmas dinner comprised largely of what you could catch.
No comment.
But I guess we'll see you folks next week. We're putting this out around Christmas, so hopefully you are enjoying your holiday, whatever form it takes. But we're going to fill our stockings, jump back in our sleighs, off to hunt down large game. And with that, I think this party's over. You've been listening to The Adventure Party. We're a ragtag collective of desperate souls, striving for truth in a world of tabletop gone mad. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter. You can email us at party@theadventuringparty.net. Although, between you and me, best place to track us down is Discord. Check the show notes for a link. This podcast released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike version 3 license, which is like free, but with extra steps. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next week.
Oh, oh, oh.
Oh, everyone give us a ho-ho for the outro. Ho, ho, ho.
Oh, 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 oh.
The Cull, that Cull short story is adapted for the Cull the Conqueror movie with noted lunatic Kevin Sorbo.
Oh, really?
Classic dialogue includes Ascalante, your bride is over 3,000 years old. Cull, she told me she was 19.
Wild.
Alright, I'm heading stop.